Hi, it's been a little bit since I've been able to read, but I'm back to read chapter 13 of How to Steal a Dog. So let's see what happens. I don't know what made me do it. I just couldn't stop myself. I watched Toby walk down the hall and into his classroom, and then I turned and went right back out the front door. I hurried up the sidewalk and ducked around the side of the school building. When the buses pulled away from the curb and all the kids had gone inside, I started running and didn't stop till I was way up toward the highway. My backpack bounced against me as I hurried along the side of the road. I had to see Willie. I just had to. I turned down the gravel road that led to the old house. I kept my mind on what I had to do, see Willie, instead of what I had just done, hightailed it out of school. When I got to the house, I took my backpack off and tossed it on the front porch. Then I pushed through the pricker bushes toward the back of the house. Just as I reached the corner, I heard something that made me stop in my tracks. Singing! Somebody was in the back of the house singing. I jumped into the bushes and ducked down, my heart pounding like nobody's business. The singing stopped. I held my breath. A man's voice called out, "Are you scared of me, or should I be scared of you?" I knelt in the damp earth and squeezed my eyes shut. My thoughts were jumping around between being scared and trying to figure out what to do. Maybe I could crawl through the thick brush and back out to the road. I pushed a branch aside and flinched when the sound of rustling leaves broke the silence. Willie let out a bark. "I ain't scared of a coward who won't even show his face," the man called out toward the bushes. I lifted my head the tiniest little bit to peer through the leaves. A man was sitting on a log beside the back porch. I ducked down. I tried to crawl away from the house toward the path to the road, but a tangle of wild blackberry bushes blocked the way. "This your dog?" the man called. I scrambled to think what to do. Should I jump up and run? Should I call out something? "Me and this dog are just sitting here sharing sardines," the man said. "You want some?" I pushed some branches down and peered out. Sure enough, there was Willie, sitting on the bottom step of the porch, licking a paper plate. The man stood up and walked a few steps in my direction. I ducked back down. "I reckon you and me must think alike," he called toward the bushes. "Never drop your gun to hug a grizzly bear, I always say." I crawled a few feet along the ground, trying to get a better view of the man. "But you don't have to worry, 'cause I ain't no grizzly," he said. "You think this little old dog here would eat sardines with a grizzly?" Then, for the second time that day, I just up and did something without thinking. I stood up, pulled the branches aside, and said, "His name is Willie." The man looked in my direction. "Well, now, I do declare," he said. "I sure am glad you ain't a grizzly, neither." I stepped out of the bushes, and Willie started wagging his tail and kind of prancing with his front legs. The man chuckled. "Now that's some tail wagging if I ever saw it," he said. Part of me was saying, "Georgina, stop what you're doing and get on out of here." But I never was too good at listening to my own self, so I just stood there and checked things out. The man had nailed one end of a blue tarp to the side of the house and tied the other end to a tree to make shelter. A ratty sleeping bag was stretched out on the ground beneath it. Leaning against the porch was a rusty old bicycle with a wooden crate strapped on the back. An American flag dangled from the end of a long, skinny pole, duct taped to the crate. The man gestured toward the bike. "Easy to park and don't need gas," he said. He grinned, and I got a glimpse of a shiny gold tooth right in the front. When he gave Willie a pat on the head, I noticed he had 2 fingers missing. I'd never seen anybody with 2 fingers missing before. He must have seen me staring at his hand, 'cause he said, "Got in a tussle with a tractor engine one time." He wiggled his 3 fingers at me. "Tractor 1, he said. I blushed and looked away. "My name's Mookie," the man said, tipping his gray baseball hat. "Mookie?" He grinned again. "Real name is Malcolm Greenbush, but my mama called me Mookie when I was just a little thing, and I've been Mookie ever since." "Oh. You got a name?" "Georgina," I said. "Georgina Hayes." He stuck out that three-fingered hand of his for me to shake. I confess I didn't feel too good about shaking a three-fingered hand, but I did it anyways. I don't mean to go prying into your business, Miss Georgina, Mookie said, but how come you got your little dog all holed up here in this old house? Uh-oh, I hadn't been ready for that question. I had to think fast. 'Cause we got a new landlord, and he says we can't have a dog anymore. So my mama is looking for a new place where we can keep a dog. So I'm keeping him here till she finds one, I said. There, that sounded pretty good. Mookie's bushy eyebrows shot up. That's so, he said. Yes, sir. Well, I can tell you that dog was hungry enough to eat the south end of a northbound skunk. I looked at Willie. He sat on the step and pawed the air with one of his little paws. Then he yawned, curling up his pink little tongue. I sat beside him and pulled him onto my lap. I bring him stuff to eat every day, I said. That's so. Something about the way he said, that's so, made me squirm. Except today, I said. Today I forgot. Well then, it's a good thing I had them sardines. Mookie gathered the paper plate and empty cans and put them all in a plastic grocery bag. Then he turned to me and said, Ain't it? I felt squirmy again. Yes, sir. Seems kind of a shame to keep a little dog like that tied up all the time. I looked down at Willie and ran my hand along his back. You want to run a little bit, fella? I said. His head shot up off my lap and he whined. Mookie chuckled. I think that's a yes, he said. I untied the string leash from the back porch and Willie leapt off the steps, jumping on me and yipping like crazy. I took him around to the gravel road and off we went. Willie looked like he was ready to bust wide open with pure joy of running. We raced up and down the road a few times till I finally collapsed right there in the dirt, gasping for breath. Willie sat beside me, panting. I don't know which he needed more, Mookie called from the side of the house, them sardines or that run. I pulled Willie onto my lap and put my arm around him. He licked my face and then nudged me with his nose. Mookie strolled out to the road where me and Willie were sitting. He sure is a smart little fella, he said. You had him long? Kind of. Guess it's pretty easy to love a dog like that. Mookie picked up a piece of gravel and hurled it into the trees. A loud thwack echoed through the woods. I bet you miss him a lot, he said. I mean, not having him in that apartment of yours. I nodded, stroking Willie's head and trying to keep my face from looking as squirmy as my insides were feeling. Mookie hurled another rock into the woods. I had me a dog when I was a boy, he said. What kind? Oh, just a little old half-breed, he said. Uglier than homemade soup, that dog was. And dumb. My daddy used to say he didn't have both oars in the water. He chuckled. But Lord, me and him was closer than white on rice. He shook his head. I sure did love that dog. He reached down and scratched the top of Willie's head. Willie gave Mookie one of those doggy smiles of his. Dogs are just like family, aren't they? Mookie said. I looked at Willie, and no matter how hard I tried not to, I kept seeing Carmela's sad face and hearing Carmela's heartbroken voice. I stood up and brushed the dirt off my knees. Where do you live? I said. Yesterday, today, or next Thursday? Mookie grinned, making his gold tooth glitter in the sunlight. Well, yesterday, I guess. Over there. He jerked his head and kind of rolled his eyes. Over where? Over there was where I was. In a house? A house? He said real loud, like I was crazy to ask that. Nah. Then where? He opened his arms wide and said, Out here. Outside. Outside? Mookie nodded. Yep. How come? 'Cause I don't have to paint the air or tar paper the sky or mop the ground. All I gotta do is breathe. That's stupid, I said. Mookie chuckled. I better go, I said, leading Willie up the path to the back of the house. Mookie followed along behind us, whistling. I took Willie up to the back porch and tied his leash to the doorknob. How long are you staying here? I said. Not long, he said. I leave my feet in one place too long, they start growing roots. Oh. I gave Willie one last pat on the head. Then, bye. I made my way down the rickety steps. And thanks for the sardines. For Willie, I mean. Mookie tipped his hat. My pleasure. As I pushed through the bushes toward the front of the house, I had an uneasy feeling. My worries seemed to be piling up, one on top of the other, like bricks on a wall. I waited in the car until it was time to go back to school and get Toby. All afternoon, I tried to concentrate on what I had to do next. I went over my How to Steal a Dog notes in my mind and thought about how good I'd done so far. I had done good, hadn't I? I mean, I'd found the perfect dog. I'd stolen him. I'd put him in a good place where he was safe. Now all I had to do was wait for Carmela to get the reward money. I bet by the time me and Toby got over to Carmela's, she'd have the money, and then I could just move on to the last step in my dog stealing plan. Shoot, I bet me and Toby and Mama would be in our nice new apartment just about any day now. All right, that is the end of chapter 13. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed.